damage assessments in the medical field. I find it very interesting if you think about this concept. So let me give you an easy example for most of us drive. So you're driving your car down the freeway and you hear a sound. What happened? Maybe that ding, right, when a rock hits your windshield. Or some sound that sounds like you ran over something. You don't actually know what happened to your car until you pull over and take a look. For example, the windshield. We've all driven enough to know that sometimes there's a crack and many times there's actually not a crack, even though it sounded like there is a crack. In the same way, you could run over something and sometimes it's damaged and sometimes it's not. If you persistently have sounds coming off the bottom of your car after you run over something, probably have some damage. But even if you don't have sounds, doesn't mean you don't have damage. You just have to literally check. Because you don't know, right? Sounds don't mean that much. Even seeing stuff doesn't mean that much, right? You can see something and run over. It still doesn't mean you have car damage. It also doesn't mean you don't have car damage. You just simply don't know. In the medical field, we talk about risk factors, things that are at risk. If you want to use the car analogy, you run over stuff. That's risky. It may damage the car. There are risk factors, diabetes, high blood pressure, all the stuff that may damage people's bodies. But they don't necessarily. They may not. And I find that's the million-dollar question that's really easily addressed by much less than $1 million that almost no doctor bothers to actually think about, right? Is it possible this person has high blood pressure and they actually handle it very well? I think most doctors would say, well, maybe they don't actually have high blood pressure if they don't have signs of end organ damage. They just, have white coat hypertension or something. But that's all a very fancy, convoluted way of saying that, they didn't actually have high blood pressure. Let's take something more simple, diabetes. So A1C of 6.5 and above is diabetic range. So let's say you have an A1C of 7 and you live for 1,000,000 years and you have no issues. What does that mean? Well, you can't really explain away the A1C because it's supposed to be an average. You can't fake it, quote unquote, right? Not like, your blood sugar shoots up when you see a doctor. Even if it did, it shouldn't be there for 3 months in a row, right? How do you explain that? What if somebody has some other issue, high cholesterol, and don't actually have any complications? It's very interesting when you think about it. They actually did a study on, I forgot what ethnic group in some Greek or Mediterranean islands, and they actually had diabetes or something really bad. They ate horribly. I mean, their diet is high in cheese, which is fat. But they never had strokes, heart attacks. Not that they never did. They did have them, but not at the same rate that you'd expect given how bad their diabetes was. And they said there's a genetic defect in how they process cholesterol. So they don't have the cholesterol that's required to combine with high blood sugars and make all this plaque in your body. Again, a very convoluted answer to why the risk factor wasn't a risk factor. If you go back, if you think about the fact of risk, right? We all know risk is not 100%. For example, driving fast. Many people speed. Speed, if you look at the DMV handbook, any driving course, is a risk for accidents. But many people speed and don't get in accidents. Because just because you speed doesn't mean you will get in an accident. Just because you don't wear a seatbelt doesn't mean you will die, even if you get in an accident. All these things are probabilities, which means they're not precise. They don't apply to everybody. They're just a general measure for general public, for general people, for this or that situation, which may or may not apply in your specific case. So, my question is, in the medical field, why don't more people look at signs of actual damage? Why don't they assess damage? Right? So this person with high blood pressure, how do you know whether it's causing issues for them? Well, if their kidneys fail eventually, yes, then you'll know. But before that, you can probably look at their heart. If they have what we call left ventricular hypertrophy, it means their heart's been working hard over years. Doesn't get that way overnight. Even if you have bad high blood pressure, you have these young people with tremendously horrendous blood pressure who don't have left ventricular hypertrophy because they're too young. 30. They just haven't had enough time for it to develop, right? Signs of end organ damage. Look at the brain. Do you have lots of white spots everywhere? Non-specific ischemic changes the radiologist reads. Some people don't. Some people do. Most of my patients in the hospital do, right? But they have lots of medical issues, but some people may not. Now my question is always, what if you have one isolated risk factor? The current model is it's a combination of different risk factors, different things that work together. This high blood sugar, this cholesterol, they work together to form plaque. What if you don't have both of them? Does it work? Does this still work? You don't have all the ingredients to make this bomb, in a sense, right? Bombs require multiple different ingredients, not just one thing. If you just have one thing, they can't do it by themselves. So what do you say? Well, again, the medical establishment will say, well, these are risk factors, so you should control them. I guess my question is, what if they have had these for years? Do you want to assess to see whether there's actually damage? I think, at least for me, that's a smart idea, right? First of all, even if they've had it for years, right, and there is damage, what does that mean? That means you need to work harder, right? You're like, good enough. It's like, well, it's not good enough. If they have damage, you want to try to prevent damage, right? You need to work even harder, right? This idea of how hard you need to work to do this or that. If you're working really hard and you're not successful, then what? Then maybe you could say you're not working hard enough. You need to change your strategy, right? So if a person's working really hard on diabetes, blood pressure, all these things, they seem like they're doing a great job, but there's more and more damage to their organs over the years, then it's not working, simply, right? Going back another step, if you have this and the patient's not concerned about it, you're like, well, this could give you a stroke. Could. You could get hit by a car today and die from crossing a street. You don't even have to cross the street. In fact, there's people who die standing outside. Wait. In fact, there's people who are at home who die when cars run into the house. Could. What does that mean? I don't think it means very much. But if you show them, hey, look at this. Your heart's been stressed out for a long time. It's really a lot thickened. This is not good. You're going to have issues later in life. Should we work on this blood pressure? Wouldn't that be more powerful? When you have proof? That's like telling the guy, hey, you were driving by. I think I heard some sounds. You better get your car checked out here. And the guy's like, okay, I don't see anything. He's like, yeah, but it's at risk. Sounds, they're at risk. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous, right? Silly. But are we talking about sounds? I mean, if you look at the same analogy, we're talking about risk factors, high blood pressure, diabetes, all these things, right? Those are sounds, right? You haven't proven that they damaged a person. So what now? What does that mean? I'm not really sure. Because I don't know. I think that's a real issue. When we have ways of knowing today, when we have easy tests that don't require us opening up, that we can actually see inside your body, into your heart, into your brain, why don't we use it to assess the damage? And after we have some real knowledge, then we know what we should do. In a much better, much more informed, much more, would you say, scientific way.